Hey everyone, welcome to Speakerman Speaks Retail with me, Carol Speakerman. I've been knee-deep in B2B retail sales and marketing for my entire career, and I know how hard it is to stand out from the herd. So I launched my consulting business with a clear mission: create an integrated thought leadership, market positioning, and sales process so my clients can navigate B2B sales with confidence and also attract the right partners and be legit thought leaders, not just another vendor. My podcast curates fresh takes on the wide world of retail through my latest retail trajectories and interviews with experts who help us chart the course to what's next. Well, it's been a minute since our last episode. I've been immersed in a really cool project that's had me bopping back and forth to California. But I couldn't wait to get back in the saddle to talk about one of my newest retail trajectories because it just keeps playing out. In fact, I'm kind of glad I waited to talk about it because even more headlines have popped up that back it up. And like always, this trajectory links to several evergreen trajectories that just keep gaining steam. I'm talking about a seemingly slight change in how and when technology is entering the retail space that will have a big impact on how successful it is over time. We've gone from test and launch to launch and learn. So the days of retailers futzing with new technology behind closed doors, running clandestine tests to get it just right, and launching once the bugs are worked out have all gone out the window. In the launch and learn era, retailers are unleashing new tech before the training wheels are off, and the testing phase is being performed on live subjects, otherwise known as shoppers. The learning and course correcting happens after going live, and that can mean tweaking the tech further or slamming on the brakes. Now, a lot of this is also being kept under wraps, and it just appears out of nowhere. In some cases, it'll disappear just as mysteriously. I remember the days when retailers used to put out press releases announcing all of their launches. They would give the rollout timelines, how many stores would be involved or whether it would be online. But all of that is also a remnant of retail history. I can't tell you how many tests that I've heard about recently, either from retailers or some of the third-party solution providers that are very involved in the tests, that were live tested on shoppers, then quietly shut down without any evidence it ever even happened. So this daredevil shift to launch and learn is really just about keeping retailers ahead of the curve, because in this fast-paced environment, perfect is definitely the enemy of the good. But pushing out embryonic ideas isn't without its perils. Shoppers aren't always thrilled with the trial versions of all this new technology, and they definitely don't love being guinea pigs. They expect stuff to be worked out and ready to go before they interact with it. But I say it's time to stop applying old-school assumptions to modern-day retail realities, and particularly on the automation front, because that's where launch and learn is flourishing. Customer-facing automation is where all of those live subjects are available that enable the testing to happen in the first place. But that's also what makes it so high risk. I've talked about it in several podcast interviews, presentations, media contributions over the last year or so. Retailers are determined to strike that perfect balance between high tech and high touch. It's emerged as a top goal because retailers do have so many options on the high tech front. But in the launch and learn era, they're having to make snap judgments on when it makes sense to lean into all that awesome automated capability and when to tap on the brakes and make sure that humans are at the helm, or at least at the ready. Now, Best Buy is an example of a retailer that's proactively implementing this hybrid approach between high tech and high touch. They've introduced a Gen AI-powered virtual assistant that'll directly help customers troubleshoot product problems. It'll also make recommendations to service agents in real time. Best Buy's also laid off some Geek Squad field agents and phone support personnel. But I think it's the rationale that they gave that's the most interesting. They're doing it in part to capitalize on the investments they've already made in AI. Now, there's a lot of this going on whether retailers are copping to it or not, where the tail's kind of wagging the dog. They're making investments in AI and in some cases scrambling to justify it, maybe before they're ready. Retailers from Target to Tesco have unleashed automated checkouts, for example, only to swing back around and reinstate or reinforce people-powered support in the wake of consumer backlash or just uncovering some buggy execution. Walmart's been dinged for upping the automation in its stores and particularly self-checkout. Walmart has made multiple attempts at going all in with automation and self-checkout in some locations, only to reintroduce people power after taking consumer comebacks into consideration. Now, shoppers have all kinds of reasons for carping about automated checkouts. Some worry about it putting people out of work. Others look forward to interacting with store associates, believe it or not. And still others think they're paying for personal service and then it's just getting yanked away from them. But companies in and outside of retail are also starting to pull the trigger on AI-powered customer service options, and it's leading to massive call center purges. Companies like LL Bean, American Airlines, and Verizon have announced big pullbacks. They've obviously calculated the cost savings, but will they track consumer backlash and make adjustments like the retailers have, or are they just going to power through? We shall see. But by far, the best example of the launch and learn dynamic at work is Amazon's announcement last month that it's removing its Just Walk Out automated technology from Amazon Fresh stores and the 2 Whole Foods stores that had it. Predictably, the I told you so started rolling in right away, with some pundits erroneously assuming Amazon had completely done away with Just Walk Out, when in fact it's very much alive. Just Walk Out is still powering Amazon's smaller Go format, and it's rocking along in other high-traffic but tidy storefronts in venues like stadiums, airports, and hotels. These are the operators that have been really happy with the technology for the most part. They're seeing some really nice sales upticks, and it's a great fit for their business models and formats. But Just Walk Out wasn't such a great fit for Amazon's Fresh format. It tends to fare better in smaller shops where folks are making smaller purchases. But Amazon pulling Just Walk Out from its Fresh format wasn't an automation fail. Amazon just switched over to smart carts, or dash carts as they call them, that have bells and whistles like onboard item scanners and touchscreens that display nearby items. Automatic billing lets folks skip the checkout line just as it did with Just Walk Out, but at a far lower cost and in a way that scales based on usage. The carts also provide a lot more feedback to shoppers. Amazon's learned that shoppers want to have receipts, that their coupons are being credited, they want to see how much they're saving. So it turns out we're just a bunch of control freaks. But different shoppers define control differently. Some see people-powered processes as the best way to stay in control. Others, and I put myself in this category, feel perfectly in control using kiosks and self-service and self-checkout and mobile checkout and so on. So for now, high tech is at its best when it complements high-touch experiences. Okay, so that's the backdrop, but I want to switch to a quote from a recent interview with Dilip Kumar. He's the Amazon VP who helped invent Just Walk Out. What he said brings everything back to the real crux of the matter and the launch and learn era. He called the Dash Cart, quote, a much better platform for experimentation and continued invention in large format grocery stores than Just Walk Out. Did you hear that? He didn't say that Dash Carts are much further along and ready for prime time. Instead, he called them a better platform for experimentation. So that's the new standard for launch and learn. In other words, the plot of this story isn't that a behemoth platform got humbled, then went back into a corner and vowed to take longer to work out the bugs next time. Amazon didn't trade a newfangled, unproven technology for something tried and true. It just switched one launch and learn platform, Just Walk Out, for another one, the Dash Carts. Mr. Kumar went on to say that as time moves on, quote, all kinds of things will happen to the cart. So Dash Carts are a work in progress, just like Just Walk Out, and it's being unleashed on shoppers so Amazon can learn and adjust accordingly. But maybe for different reasons than you might think. Every article I've read about the Just Walk Out walkback has buried the lead. Here's what jumped out at me. This year, Amazon expects to double the number of third-party operators that license its Just Walk Out technology. The growth is going to come from those concession and kiosk companies and hotels and so on that are really happy with Just Walk Out and ready for rollout. And word is spreading. So Amazon's leveraging its still pretty limited physical footprint to test and improve Just Walk Out, not so it can force it into Amazon-owned brick and mortars, but to explode its licensing business with all those third-party operators. If you think about it, It's not that different from running a third-party marketplace. Hello. Bottom line, the saga of Just Walk Out isn't a failure, and it's not even a stretch. It's by design, and it's a lather, rinse, repeat of Amazon's platform monetization business model. But this time, it's an automated solution that's being live tested right now on shoppers. So there are two things to consider in a launch and learn world. If you ask me, on the consumer side, there's a little bit of "you're not the boss of me" going on here, because with a lot of these automated experiments, just the act of putting the tech out there can trigger backlash. It reminds consumers that they're losing more control. So even if relinquishing control improves the overall customer experience, the knee-jerk reaction can be, "Hey, not so fast," or "Wait a minute, I don't believe I signed up for this." And no one sent out a memo letting shoppers know that a lot of the tech they're interacting with is experimental and in early stages of development. So there's a disconnect between retailers' intentions and shoppers' expectations, and I think that can get retailers into trouble. But that brings me to the retailer and brand side of the equation. They're making massive investments in automated solutions, and of course, AI is enabling a lot of it. The payoff comes through cost savings over time. But if justifying investments and racing toward cost savings are the only reasons for these decisions, retailers run the risk of unleashing half-baked technology on consumers when and where it might count the most, or where it might do the most damage. With all the capabilities that have been unleashed, many of them provided by those third-party tech companies I'm talking about, it's so tempting for retailers to just do it, then try to back it up and rationalize how it might actually help consumers after the fact. Did shoppers really ask for it? But does it really matter? After all, to quote Henry Ford, "If I'd asked people what they wanted, they'd have said faster horses." You may know that that was one of Steve Jobs' favorite quotes, and he threw in his own twist by famously saying, "Some people say give the customers what they want, but our job is to figure out what they're going to want before they do." But in the launch and learn era, that figuring out will be happening live, ready or not. So thank you for listening in today. I hope you've enjoyed the episode. And if you did, you can invite me to your organization or event to bring conversations like this to life in your spaces. That's what I do for a living. If it has to do with retail thought leadership, B2B market positioning, and business development, it's probably something I can help you with. So if you're interested in learning how we can work together, reach out to me at speakermanretail.com or email team@speakermanretail.com to book a discovery call. I've got some exciting events and speaking engagements coming up, and you can keep track of all of those by following me on LinkedIn. See you next time.